Hello! This is Cameron from Helmet Productions 5. Dylan is not with us today because he's at homecoming. I decided to fuck that. I'm going to be antisocial and just stay home. Because after all, I already did my social shit for the day, which is comprised of sitting in a theater next to my brother and one of my friends and not paying attention to them at all while paying attention to a very long and complicated movie with deep themes. In all honesty, seriously, I watched Blade Runner 2049 today. I literally watched the original like last night, but that actually ended up being a smart choice because having the original fresh in your mind before seeing this movie helps you to follow the plot a lot. I know there are a lot of people that's like, oh, you don't need to have seen the original to see this movie. I mean, I guess not. I mean, if you're good at gathering context clues, you can probably piece it together, but it definitely helps to have seen the original. And there are a lot of little nods and references to the original that you'll really appreciate. And especially if you're just in that mode of deep philosophical shit. If you're just in that mode going into this movie, you're going to get a lot more out of it. You're not just going to be like, wow, this is a beautiful looking movie, but I have no clue what in the hell is going on. You'll actually understand it quite a bit more if you have seen the original and are in that I'm going to watch a film mood. You know, this isn't an action sci-fi blockbuster. Know that, casuals. I'm not trying to be condescending, sorry. But this isn't a casual moviegoer's movie necessarily. Though I've heard some people say it bridges art house and blockbuster films together. I mean, I guess in some aspects it does. There are short bursts of action that are really, you know, well shot, well done. They're pretty badass, but the majority of this movie is kind of like almost this detective mystery sort of thing where the main character of Kay, played by Ryan Gosling, who is a Blade Runner himself, is tasked with obviously hunting down and killing replicants. Similar to obviously Harrison Ford, he was a Blade Runner in the first movie. He had to hunt down and kill some rogue replicants. Ryan Gosling has to do something similar, but he uncovers, after killing a replicant, he uncovers like this whole like crazy mystery that could potentially like change the entire world, and he has to like stop, like he discovers something like really important and shocking, but that discovery cannot get out to the world or else the world will just collapse or something. So yeah, I'm thinking I might get into spoilers with this, or I could just dedicate a whole video to spoilers. I was thinking about just titling this Blade Runner video, and talk about 2049 and the original, but I don't know, that seems like a pretty big commitment that I might need my brother with, and it might bore you, so I think I'll just discuss sorry. I'll just discuss, you know what, I actually kind of need that. Yeah, I just kind of need that so you can see my face. But yeah, I'll just discuss this movie for now. It's just I thought it was a really well done film. Expanded on the original. It's as perfect of a sequel to the original as you could hope to see, in my opinion. I knew the movie would definitely be good after, you know, knowing that Denis Villeneuve was directing. I almost think it's better that he directed it than Ridley Scott. I mean, I know that might offend like some die-hard original Blade Runner fans, but let's be honest, Ridley Scott isn't pumping out masterpiece after masterpiece. Exactly. He's had some duds in his career for sure. Whereas Denis Villeneuve, his body of work is more um, just, I don't know how to say it. It's just been more collectively well received. Most of his movies get pretty damn good reviews. So yeah, even his worst movie, I think, is still considered a really good movie. So I went into this expecting, okay, this guy's kind of a art house-y kind of filmmaker. He delves into some deep themes and stuff with his movies. He'll probably do a good job with this, and he did. Whole replicants, what are they? Should they be considered human? What's human? What isn't? Spoiler from the original: is Deckard a replicant? They tackle that, but it's still like, I mean, I guess it is a spoiler in and of itself. You're not gonna get answers. It's still ambiguous, which I think is honestly better. I think it's better that we not know for sure. It's touched upon, like I said, though. But yeah, as far as the cast goes, I think Ryan Gosling did a great job. He was very subdued, which obviously most people know him for playing that type of character, just a really stern kind of dude, you know. But some people might be like, oh, he's emotionless, he's boring, yeah, sucks. You're really not looking that closely if you think that, because I got a lot of emotions out of his performance. I found a lot in there, you know. I saw a lot behind the eyes, which I think is a big testament to his acting skills. To be able to just, you know, show emotion with like subtle little facial tics and expressions and your eyes and things like that. I guess the reason why I appreciate that sort of acting style a lot is because I'm sort of like that. I'm not super emotive or expressive, but just because I'm not super emotive and expressive doesn't mean that I don't have emotions or feelings. They're there. They're just, you know, subtle. You have to pay more attention to pick up on them, and I think that's how Ryan Gosling's performance was in this movie. And he does have explosive bursts of emotion throughout that definitely make contrast with the more stern expressions he usually has, and that makes them more powerful. And I thought he did a really good job in this movie. I heard this character was written for him. I think he played it perfectly. And he has a pretty significant emotional journey in this movie. It's not just beginning to end, he's the same, you know. Which all the best characters have arcs, you know. They're in a certain place at the beginning and a certain place at the end. Not necessarily always is it like drastically different, like people bring up a Clockwork Orange, like he was the same at the end of the movie. Well, that was the point of the movie, so. But yeah, this movie, I think he did a really good job. And Harrison Ford was great as well. As one of probably his most emotional roles he's had to do. I think a lot of his returning roles have been like good challenges for him to like tackle more dramatic stuff. Like him returning to Han Solo, it was a really great performance and had a lot of subtlety and nuance and stuff. And I think the same can be said for him returning to the role of Rick Deckard. Whereas in the original, they're like seen as a certain way. Like Han Solo, oh, he's this cool dude. He's space pirate smuggler dude. He's awesome. And then in Force Awakens, it's like, I missed him so much. Oh, he's here, and he's more weary, and he's tired, but he still has hope for the future when he meets Rey and all that sort of stuff. And in this movie, it's like it's kind of the opposite of that. He's like, oh god, fuck the world. Fuck them. I'm gonna do my thing. I don't give a shit what they do. As long as I've got my freedom and can do the things that I want to do, I just want to stay away from the world. But to be honest, he really isn't in it as much as you would think. He's slapped on the poster, like right next to Ryan Gosling. I think he's just as important. Which, well, I guess he is just as important, but he doesn't have nearly as much screen time. He, just so you're prepared, I'm going to tell you this. I mean, some of you might not want to know, but he doesn't really appear till like the end of the second act, beginning of the third act. I'd argue more end of the second act, but yeah, it takes him a while. Like a lot of like Ryan Gosling's journey through this movie, sort of centers around him finding Deckard, you know. So he isn't like Luke Skywalker or anything, but he's not in as much as like marketing would have you believe. But marketing, it's always misleading. Never trust it, honestly. I stayed away from the trailers for this movie, except for like the first trailer, obviously, and I pretty much just watched the first trailer, and therefore I wasn't disappointed by a lack of comparison for it. I was kind of expecting that he wouldn't be in it a ton. He has a decent chunk of time in the movie, but it's just not as much as you would think. Jared Leto, I mean, he wasn't bad. He wasn't bad. He played the part that he was given, and he played it as well as he could, but the part that he was given wasn't really written super well. My main issue isn't his performance, it's that I don't understand really what his motivations are, honestly. I'm like, okay, you want to do this, but why? So, you know, what's the point? Like, he makes replicants and stuff, he's sort of taken the place of the Tyrell Corporation. He runs a new type of corporation. I thought that him being blind and having to see through these little robot things was interesting, but yeah, I still just didn't quite understand his motivation. He has a god complex. He's like, oh, replicants, I will create tons of new replicants, but then you're like, but I have to create them in this new, different way. It's like, but why? Why can't you just create them the regular way? What's the difference, honestly? But it's hard for me to get into it without spoilers, but his motivations are just really kind of cloudy, and that was probably my biggest flaw with this movie. And it does go on for a long time. Shots last a while. I think if some of the shots were cut down, then this movie could have fit into like more of a straight up like 2-hour running time. But as it stands, it's almost 3 hours. So like, but I understand why they were drawn out, and honestly, it's kind of cool if you really appreciate film to like kind of like analyze every little shot and be like, wow, just really have time to look it over and appreciate it, because this movie is beautiful. Roger Deakins is obviously pretty much the best cinematographer working today, so it's a pretty movie, that's for sure. It's eye candy, definitely, but it's not style without substance, because, you know, this movie gets pretty deep with its themes of, like I said, what's human, what's not, should replicants be considered humans, all that sort of stuff. Just the rights, like, replicants are all mistreated and stuff like that. It's sort of like today, almost. It's very relevant. Like, replicants aren't as necessarily looked down upon as they were in the original Blade Runner, but it's more like subtle, like fuck off Skinner. It's like slang for replicants. Skinner or skinhead, not skinhead. That's neo-Nazis. Just, yeah, Skinners or something like that, but yeah, just, they're kind of like, for replicants. But yeah, so, it's definitely relevant to the culture of today, and, mass production, and, just consumption, and, like, sexualization, sex stuff, you know. I can't think of big words right now, okay? I'm sorry. I can't just think of big words on the spot. I didn't write a script for this, which is probably one of the biggest problems with this channel, to be honest. We should probably start writing shit and stop improving, because we're not good at it. But yeah, I thought this was a really well done movie. If you watch the first one, you'll definitely, I think you'll get a lot more out of this one, having seen the first one. I think it's got It definitely looks beautiful. Its story is really well done. The whole movie's really well done. Acting, directing, beautiful. Obviously, Denis Villeneuve knows what he's doing. Just, it's a movie that will be impactful if you want it to be impactful. Like, if you allow it into your heart. If you're not just sitting there the whole movie like, pretentious, freaking, sci-fi, high concept crap. You have to you have to know what you're getting into. You'd be like, okay, I understand this movie's going to tackle some deep themes. It's going to get a little deep, a little complicated. But I'm going to pay attention to the movie. I'm going to appreciate it for what it is. And I'm going to see what I can get out of it. And then you watch it in that mindset. You'll get a lot out of this movie, I think. It's definitely a thinker, too. Obviously, it's a thinker. This is a sequel to Blade Runner, you know? This, along with it, I think, are movies that I'm thinking about a lot after seeing. This, I just probably gotta marinate a little bit. If my brother wants to make a separate video, I think maybe we could do spoilers for this one, because I did this alone without his permission, which might piss him off. So we could make another video about this tomorrow, maybe let it sit and marinate in my head for a bit before coming back to it. But as it stands, I thought this was a beautiful movie, very well done, very well acted. It does a lot of world building, actually, and does it really well. Like, you believe that this is the future of that world previously established in Blade Runner. It's just not, oh, times have changed, it's 2017 now, let's just do our version of the future. No, this is the this is the future of the 1980s Blade Runner's future. So yeah, and I think all this evolution of the technology and stuff is really natural from the first Blade Runner to this Blade Runner. The technology evolution is just like really kind of, everything gels really well with the original movie. And I think that is really something that that is appreciable, something to appreciate about this movie. A lot of work clearly went into it. So I definitely give this a watch. I heard it's not making as much as it was expected to, which, I mean, it does kind of suck, but look at the original Blade Runner. It didn't do great with critics or audiences at first, or the box office, but over time it's become a classic. It's been looked back on as a masterpiece, and I think this movie will definitely do better than like the original did. It's already doing much better with like critics than the original Blade Runner did when it released. Nowadays it's like, oh, it's amazing, but yeah, because it's getting pretty damn good reviews. So if you are a film buff, if you love, I'm glitching because I'm a replicant. If you love the original Blade Runner, if you love just film, you'll really appreciate and have a lot to get out of this movie, I think. That being said, what am I going to give this movie? Man, I really only have, you know what, I'll give it a 9, okay? First flaw is just Jared Leto's characters, his motivations, they're really, I don't see them. And second, just, it could have been like, it could be a little more streamlined, I guess. But I get the whole not wanting to pander to like mainstream audiences, so it's hard to take away from that. And my score might go up as I think about it more, but as of right now, I'm going to give it a 9. Definitely one of my favorites of the year. See it if you love film. You have to be in the right mode, though, to really get the most out of this movie. Sorry for droning on. This is a long-ass video, almost as long as the movie. But, that was my personal opinion on Blade Runner 2049. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out. That was a weird-ass hand gesture. Harrison Ford's on this shirt, so close enough to a Blade Runner shirt.